You're listening to Power Talk, Berkeley Electric Cooperative's official broadcast about the cooperative, our communities, and ways to use energy wisely. And now, let's join our hosts for today's episode. Good morning and welcome to Power Talk. This is Micah Ponce, the Communications and Media Specialist here at Berkeley Electric Cooperative, and I am joined today by Miss Libby Micah, the Director of Marketing and Communications here at the co-op as well. Good morning, Libby.
Good morning, Micah.
Well, it's another beautiful day here in Low Country, and we have a very special first-time guest in studio, Mr. Chris Rutledge, the Vice President of Engineering. Welcome, sir.
Good morning. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Well, as a new guest to the show, for those of you who are watching, we do this occasionally. Whenever we have somebody new, we give them the official Power Talk mug. The only way you get this is by torturing yourself and coming on this show.
Well, thank you. Why do you think I came?
The word's gotten out.
I tell you, yeah, high quality ceramic mug, folks. I mean,
Well,
what more can you ask for?
Yeah, co-op employees will work for food and bribery.
There you go.
Number one, food.
Well, I mean, you're new to the show, Chris, but you're not new to the co-op. I believe you've been here somewhere around 18 years or so. Isn't that right?
That's right.
Yeah,
Sure have.
Still haven't caught up to me. I'm still leading the race.
Yep.
But you joined, I think you were a distribution engineer. I mean, you came in right from the engineering at the get-go. And the reason we brought you here today is not only because we want to pick your mind about the fascinating topic of engineering, but you also were just recently promoted to Vice President of Engineering. So congratulations, sir.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
We just had your cohort on here just not too long ago, a regular guest on the show, Mr. Tommy Harvey, the newly promoted Vice President of Operations. So, well, what we do to everybody who comes on the show, besides give them a mug, in exchange for the mug, you have to sort of give us a little bit of background about yourself and the folks who are listening. Tell us, who is Chris Rutledge?
Well, I grew up in Blythewood, just north of Columbia. Played sports and just loved engineering and getting my hands on anything. And, just really loved Blythewood. And, of course, went to Carolina. Go Gamecocks.
There you go. Yes,
Micah's
sir.
got his garnet and black on today.
Yep, that's right. And I just always liked math and science. So engineering I just kind of, migrated towards. Got 4 boys at home, so they keep me busy. I try to coach as much as I can, and I really enjoy it. So even had a basketball game last night. So.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, any friend of Carolina is a friend of mine, so welcome to the show.
You came here straight out of Carolina, right?
Yeah, so I graduated early May, and 2 weeks later was here.
Yeah.
So I made a quick transition there.
Do you remember kind of what the size of Berkeley Electric was at that time?
I think member-wise we had 60,000, 70,000, something like that, maybe 200 employees. So we've grown significantly, obviously. So I've gotten seen a lot of that, which is really nice.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, over the years, there's, like you said, we've had a lot of change here at the co-op, and being a freshly minted engineer right out of school, you've been here a while now. What kept you at Berkeley Electric Cooperative? What was the draw that kept you here, besides my pleasant company, of course?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we during college came down here a good bit and just loved the Low Country. And in college, actually, was a co-op student at Fairfield Co-op. So I worked for the Vice President of Engineering there, shadowed him day to day. And just really enjoyed the co-op atmosphere, the family, all the hats that we wear is just really cool. And staying here, I mean, the people, of course, I think that's overused, that we're a family, but it's not overused because it's so true. And just really liked it down here. And the beaches.
Yeah.
The beach doesn't hurt.
No, the beach doesn't hurt. Yeah, that's true. I mean, I said any friend of Carolina is a friend of mine, but I do have to do it as an aside. I don't understand you math people. I just don't. I mean, I fled to journalism as far away from math as I possibly could. But saying that, I also thank the Lord for people like you, because this co-op would not be running if they had to rely on me to try to figure out how to bring power to the people. So we appreciate everything that you do. And I mean, like serving the members, I mean, that is our
Our number
main
one.
mission here at the co-op. So you've been in the engineering department a while. You're now the lead guy. What does the engineering department do that serves our members? Because everybody, we know the linemen. Everybody knows me because I'm the voice on the radio. But the engineering, you are the guys who are sort of behind the lines and under the lines and make the lines, or at least dream them up anyway. So
Draw the lines.
Draw the line. So give us a rundown of what does the engineering department here at the co-op do?
So engineering, we do a lot of the system planning. So any large neighborhoods, we're growing so much nowadays that we really have to keep up with that.
Yeah.
But we also have to keep up with the maintenance on our existing system.
Mm-hmm.
So that's 50% of it there, and then keeping up with our high growth rate, and just keeping our reliability as good as we can.
Mm-hmm.
We've had a strong focus on reliability lately, and we want to forge forward with that, keep going, and just be good stewards of our members' money. We want to make sure we prioritize properly and do jobs when they need to be done. But then with equipment lead times and costs, we have to plan way ahead in engineering. Yeah. And we just want to make sure we stay on top of that so we're not running behind.
Yeah. And that balance of growth and maintenance is so huge. I mean, internally at the co-op, we talk a lot about that, but we are in a unique position where we're adding 5,000 to 7,000 new residential accounts each year. And, but at the same time, a lot of our territory is right on the coast, and, doing that preventative maintenance, hardening our system to help it withstand severe weather, because it's inevitable that we're going to get hit by something each year.
Oh yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of little equipment things that we try to do to keep up with our aging infrastructure, like hybrid stuff. So things that are more corrosion resistive and things of that nature.
Now, you had mentioned, some of our growth and whatnot, and, we talked about when you first joined the co-op, we didn't have a lot of like the big planned communities that we're seeing today. Is there a difference in the way that we served like a planned community and engineering wise versus just like the individual houses? What kind of challenges does that bring when you're talking about like a planned community versus just, your one-off or, serving a road down, in the community?
Oh yeah. Just the time it takes to plan. If one member needs power, it's fairly simple, but a community that maybe has multiple tracks and multiple areas, it's constantly progressing and constantly changing even. They have to change their stuff. So our design team has to keep up with that as well. And making sure we have enough infrastructure for these big areas, enough transformers, enough equipment, all that kind of stuff is very important.
No, I imagine like the requirements for something like a planned community is going to be a lot different in terms of the type of equipment and whatnot that you have to deal with. I mean, say just like your regular residential neighborhood out in the country, I mean, what in terms of like scale, in terms of like amount of gear or the level of equipment that we have to do to serve a planned community, I'm sure that's a little bit different.
It is, yeah. And a lot of times we'll have to, like Cane Bay and Nexon area, those are two areas that have really grown significantly the last decade and even less than that. So sometimes it requires substations, which requires transmission. So it involves more than just the co-op. It'll involve Dominion or Santee Cooper, of course, usually, and just a lot more infrastructure. Like just instead of one wire going to your house, or really three, like one, we're burying multiple things down underground or overhead, and creating loops so we can backfeed and outage restoration. There's a lot that goes with it.
Well, since we have the expert on hand, we're going to break it down a little bit, hopefully, for some of our members. You're talking about, single phase, double phase, triple phase, three phase, actually, we call it. But the anatomy of a power pole, I mean, that's something that y'all have to worry about. What all goes on a power pole? We're talking about equipment. Everybody sees them. They're looking at a power pole. What am I looking at when I see all those gewgaws hanging on the pole? What are some of the basics, at least?
Yeah, most of what we use is just a wood pole, but it's been preserved, so it fights off your insects and your bacteria and things of that nature, especially at ground line. But when you look up, there's typically a cross arm on a three-phase. insulators, which is what more or less insulate the conductor that is energized from the wood pole. A lot of times, of course, the transformer, so that transformer is going to convert your high voltage to your low voltage that you can get in your outlet. I mean, there's all kinds of other stuff in there, but that's the basics. And sometimes a fuse cut out. So if a tree falls in the line, you know, that fuse will actually disconnect that circuit so it doesn't cause more damage than it should.
So the big bang that we hear when we say a transformer blows, that's actually just the cutout fuse most of the time.
Most of the time, yep. Everybody's like transformer blows, but typically it sounds like a shotgun, a fuse blowing.
And it's the system working as it's designed.
Exactly.
That big bang.
Yep.
You know, we were doing some yard work this weekend, and we have a pad mount transformer in our backyard, and I was telling my 8-year-old son, you know, don't touch it, you know, just stay away from it. And he's like, well, what is that? And so, you know, had a little bit of lesson in electricity about, you know, power as it's passed through the transmission lines is at a higher voltage, so you lose less as it's moving. And it's got to be stepped down to a residential by a transformer. Mm-hmm. So having a little bit of, here's what this is and how it works and why it's important, and don't touch it.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
So how many houses can like a typical transformer on a pole serve? Is it like one transformer per house, or is it like one transformer can do several houses? How does it work? Because I have zero clue.
Micah just wants to know.
Yeah.
I'm just curious.
Yeah, so it really depends. Say if you're just one member, you might have one transformer, especially if you're in a rural area with a couple acres of land like a lot of our system is. But if you're in a subdivision of some sort, you could feed 4, 6, or even 8 houses. I think 8's probably about as high as we go. And, of course, the more members we serve, the larger that transformer will be. Mm-hmm. Maybe not physically, but it'll be capable of feeding more members.
Yeah, I remember we had a conversion that we had to do in Lebanon at one point, and I think it's just not as simple, but they did turn a switch on the transformer to change the voltage on it. So, you know, it's not as easy as all that, but I mean, that's part of it. You just flip a switch, you know, yeah, that's all you got to do.
Oh, yeah.
But I mean, we were talking about, you know, you said phases, and that's another thing that a lot of folks don't understand. I mean, like single phase versus 3-phase. What's the difference in that type of thing?
So, like a single residence or a smaller power consumer would just need single phase. It's just like your normal outlet, your 240 and your 120. Whereas the larger you go, the more power, you need. So sometimes you require 3-phase, which is just, then it can be 120 208 or 120 240 or even 480. So the more power you require, I guess, the higher the voltage typically.
So the more lines we see up there, we see 3 lines as 3-phase.
Yep, that's it.
So you see one line, single phase.
That's right.
Yep.
And then you got a neutral down there too. So
all right.
Yep.
So we keep the dangerous stuff high up.
Yeah. Or in the ground.
Or underground, yeah.
Yep.
We recently had a partial outage at a school 6 months ago or so where they lost 2 of the 3 phases. So the air conditioning wasn't working in the school, but the computers were. So, and just navigating through that, apparently a lawnmower or something had hit some equipment and knocked out part of the service, but not all of it. Mm-hmm. So I thought that was an interesting situation.
Yeah, so a lot of members may have 3-phase, but some of their equipment runs on just one of those 3 phases. But those, say, big AC units on top of a school or something, typically they're 3-phase, so they would require all 3.
Yeah.
So sometimes you will get a partial outage, but still, if you do, give us a call. You know.
We're happy to fix it.
And the bane of all members, of course, is power blinks. You know, everybody hates resetting their clocks and everything else like that. What are some of the common causes of those power blinks that we have to put up with?
Let's see. So animals.
Squirrels.
Yep, squirrels. But those have reduced a good bit because we've been using all kinds of animal protection on top of our transformers and things. Really wind and trees. That's probably number one. And we've been cutting right away. We've got Adam Bradshaw for the past, 5 or 10 years.
Yeah, good
We'll
guy.
shout out to him. I mean, our system is gotten so much better in that respect. Trees and wind. Let's see, what else? Animals, and then equipment failure. Our aging infrastructure, like in Goose Creek and places like that, so we just got to keep up with our maintenance. And as long as we do that, then, we're good.
Yeah. And we invest heavily in maintenance. We have a very proactive, strong program that we go through the system strategically and repair stuff as it's starting to age out. So
that's right. Yeah, right now we're on about an 8-year rotation. So we'll go through the entire system in 8 years. We do that both with poles and our underground system. And we also inspect every single overhead line on an annual basis.
Yeah.
So we should catch any hazards or anything like that.
Yeah, and you mentioned right-of-way maintenance. We get through the system once every 4 years. So it's a 4-year cycle to make sure all the vegetation is clear of the lines best we can. You get a tree outside the right-of-way, that can cause some problems. But, yeah, investing heavily in all that.
Oh, yeah, some of those trees that are outside the right-of-way, they're just so tall. I mean, there's only so much you can do.
Yeah.
There's a couple areas on our system that the pines trees are 200 feet tall, and, you got to keep them way back then. But, and they look at danger trees also, ones that they feel that are going to possibly fail, and we go ahead and do what we can to mitigate that problem.
Yep.
Well, for those of you who are just tuning in, we are right in the middle of another episode of Power Talk, and we're talking with Mr. Chris Rutledge, the newly minted Vice President of Engineering here at Berkeley Electric Cooperative. And, we're talking a little bit about, what does an engineer do here at the co-op? And, for that part, that hadn't changed a whole lot. We get new equipment, but the basic processes are kind of the same. But we do have sort of a new setup here at the co-op because with you taking over as vice president, we used to have a combined department of engineering and operations, and now that has been split apart, if I'm correct.
That's right. Sure has.
So why was that a good decision for Mike Fuller, our CEO, to split that role into two separate roles, given the size of our co-op and our growth rate?
I think that's a huge part of it, just the sheer size of engineering and operations. We were, a good majority of the company. And I know he went and talked to other co-ops that are about our size and, filled them out a little bit. Hey, what do you do? And we had some conversations internal as well.
Yeah.
And I think with Tim, our previous vice president of engineering operations, with his retirement, I think it was just a natural time to go ahead and look harder at that.
Yeah.
So, but I think the sheer size, and then we can both focus even more on our respective areas.
Yeah.
Like, we can focus more on, your EVs, your solar, all the things that are coming about. And then Tommy can focus on the operations and how to make them more efficient and more effective.
Yeah. And, we did post both jobs externally as well as internally, but, personally, I think it's worked out really great to have two folks who have come up in the co-op. Tommy started as a groundsman helper. Chris, you started as entry-level engineer. And so you guys know the system, you know each other, the folks who are working under you. And so neither one has really missed a beat.
Yeah, that's been really cool to both make up, start from the ground and work our way up and really know the system and each other. And, even though we're split, we still talk to each other daily.
Yeah.
And we work really well together, not just Tommy and I, but all of engineering and all operations. I mean, we're still heavily involved in each other, just like all other departments here.
Mm-hmm.
Well, imagine, what you used to do as director of engineering and technical services, still part of your job, but sort of, I guess, now you're looking at the bigger picture. What's different about being vice president? What are some of the first initiatives that you think that you might want to undertake in your new role?
I think a lot of it is going to continue and be the same, honestly. Like stewardship for our members' money, that's extremely important to us, all of us, prioritizing jobs. But it's been really cool to be involved with staff and see how well they bounce ideas off each other. And, it's really neat to kind of have that 40,000 foot level now view and really look at the company's vision and, goals and large objectives and stuff and work together as staff. It's been a really awesome experience.
Now, imagine too, though. I mean, technology sort of probably has changed. As you've come up, I guess, sort of in your experience, what has been some of the biggest changes in technology from your journey from just a lowly distribution engineer to the lofty heights of vice presidency during that time? I guess, so what have been some of the biggest movers and shakers when it comes to the way that we build our system, in your opinion?
I think our metering system has drastically changed since I've been here. When I first came here, we just had electromechanical meters, and some meters we did have automated, but that you'll still ride by. So now we can actually do that from the office and help members see where they're using their power and help them try to be more efficient. So that's been really neat. And then our operations center is one thing that's grown in leaps and bounds and really improved. So in all the softwares that we use there to try to serve our members effectively.
No, I mean, you were talking about the new metering system, and my understanding is, I mean, we don't want to say it's necessarily smart, but I mean, it is definitely an interconnected system that doesn't sort of like talk to itself and sort of, I guess, figure out if there's an issue somewhere. It sort of self-learns.
Predictive
abilities. Some predictive ability. They're coming. Right. They're coming for us, folks. They're coming for us.
Okay. Yeah, it's smarter than we are sometimes.
I'm gonna tell Amy to send all these calls to you, Micah.
Yeah. This new metering system actually is one of the really cool things that it does is if you lose power, it'll tell us. It'll go ahead and put our OMS, and then we can address it, as needed. Where in the past, members had to call. Like we didn't know something. If it's a smaller outage, members had to call. So that's been a really late-breaking thing that's really good. And our OMS system, just works really well now. Whereas when I came here, it worked well, but it just has grown and is even more efficient now.
Yeah. Yeah. And the ability to capture usage data to help our members, Eddie Plowden with Energy Services, he worked with our billing department, and they have a program that runs behind the scenes where we see unusual spikes in usage. A lot of times for residential members, we'll give you a call and say, hey, you're on track. Your bills hasn't reconciled just yet. You haven't gotten it yet. But there's something going on at your house. Is your water heater going bad? Maybe flip that breaker. Maybe heat strips are running. Your emergency heat is running. Maybe against your air conditioner or instead of just your regular heat pump function. So, that is all a result of, our newer metering data. Instead of having the old mechanical meters that you had to go by and get a manual reading, we now have things that we can use to help our members.
Oh, yeah, definitely. That's been great. It really has for our members and for us. I mean, we feel like we're making a difference,
Yeah.
Story time. One of the older vice presidents who used to work here was Jack Villaponte, and he told me about a story talking about the old meters and not knowing sometimes when they're out. It was after Hurricane Hugo, and he stopped by a member that he knew down in the Allendale area, but they were sort of like off one of the forest roads or something like that. And he stopped in just to check on them. And he was like, how you doing? He said, I just want to make sure you got power. They're like, no, we still don't have power yet. It's been 2 weeks. And he's like, well, everybody else has power. Why don't you? And so it was just a breaker. The breaker on the house had tripped.
Oh, no.
And so they've been sitting there for probably 4 or 5 days longer than they needed to.
No.
All they needed to do was flip that switch. But, I mean, they didn't know and we didn't know. I mean, it literally, if he hadn't just stopped by to say, hey, how's things going, they still would have been without power out there in the middle of the woods. But,
yeah, that's another really neat thing that we can see if the meter has power. So if the member calls back, I still don't have power, and say, check your breakers. And how many times that happens is unbelievable. And, it's not something a member would really think about sometimes. You just assume it's the power outage. But I'd say 5% of all of our outages are actually on the member's side, just their breaker tripping off. All they got to do is flip it.
And even though those meters are smart, folks, we still want you to call in and report your outage because sometimes things get missed. No system is perfect. So definitely make sure that you call 1-800-4... Wait, what is it? 1-888 888-253-4BEC. It's been a minute since I had to remember that, folks. Sorry about that.
Or you can go to your account on the website or your Smart Hub app on your device.
Lots of ways
Lots
now.
of ways to report.
Oh, yeah.
outages.
Smart Hub's been great last decade or so. I mean, member interaction has been really good.
Yeah.
With that.
And for those of you who haven't signed up for Smart Hub yet, that's our online payment portal. It gives you access to all the data for your system, so you can see how much you're using daily, hourly, and you can really do a good job of taking control of your power usage and regulating how much you pay either daily or at the end of the month.
Yeah, we see members who are on our prepaid metering system that they're paying in advance for their power instead of getting the monthly bill, that they conserve energy much more than folks on traditional billing because they're getting that daily notification. And I know I like to dive into Smart Hub maybe once a week or so and just see what my daily usage is, especially like during that recent cold snap. You know, it's not pleasant to watch those numbers go up, but, if you know your system's working properly, it is what it is.
That's right. Yep.
Well, we're talking all things engineering, and we had mentioned a little bit earlier that, Berkeley Electric has been growing fairly quickly for the better part of a decade or so. I think we're around 4 to 5% each year, sometimes a little bit higher. I think we were up to 7% at one point. And we've got a very diverse service territory. We go from all into all, deep in the woods.
National forest
to Kiowa, our sea islands, Goose Creek, Monk's Corner, everywhere in between. So, I mean, we've got a very diverse territory of membership, a lot of growth. What are the challenges and opportunities does that present to the engineering team, I guess?
It's very true. Every district is unique. I mean, like a lot of other cooperatives, like some we might have mostly underground, so we need to focus on that underground maintenance, and then some are overhead, and so the the line patrols are extremely important, and then just the equipment that we use in those areas are very, very different. So we need to make sure that we are adequately supplied and ready for a new member, or if the line gets torn down, and make sure we have everything in stock and ready.
So planning being very important.
Yeah, planning is extremely important for all of that, for new stuff and our existing infrastructure. Yeah.
Well, for those poor children who aren't, blessed with the gift for gab and are left to rely on math as their
math and science.
But, I guess for those folks, what does it take to sort of have a successful career in engineering? What's the education and training that's required to be an engineer here at BEC? I mean, I know there's different types of engineers. I mean, we use mainly electrical engineers?
Yeah, we have electrical and mechanical and even civil on staff, actually. Yeah.
Okay, so we cover the whole gamut.
We do, yeah. So, like you said, you got to like math. I mean, sorry.
I'm out.
But other than that, like just strong work ethic, and like all of us at the co-op, we have to wear a lot of hats. But that makes it interesting. So every day is a different challenge, and keeps you loving work and coming here. But just like in math, liking prioritizing things, like that's one thing that we really have to do in engineering a lot is prioritize. And we're planning for these sometimes multi-million-dollar jobs, so you got to be a good steward of your members' money. And
is there any particular software that would be helpful to know? I mean, do y'all still use CAD, or is that old school? I mean, I don't know. I'm throwing out the only thing that I know for engineering software. So
yeah, we still use CAD, which is I used CAD in high school, but it's been a couple of versions since then. But yeah, CAD, and we use Windmill for our engineering software, analysis software. So whenever we do get a fault on the system, a lineman may call in the fault current. We can actually try and pinpoint somewhat where that fault is. So that's another one of those interactions between engineering operations that happens quite frequently. But yeah, just planning. Gotta love planning.
So generally, would it be correct to say your department does the plan that operations then deploys? So
that's right. Yeah, so we do all the design, like the developers will send us the plans, and then our design department will stake it out and release it to operations, and operations, they install it. Yep.
Well, like all good plans, we've reached the end of ours. So thank y'all for tuning in to another edition of Power Talk. This is the official broadcast of your electric cooperative, and you can catch up on past episodes on streaming platforms like Spotify, Apple, and iHeartRadio. And always get a behind-the-scenes look at Berkeley Electric's YouTube channel so you can see all of our smiling faces. So until next time, folks, this has been Power Talk. We're signing off.